At Christmas, my brother announced opening his gift. Wow, cheap's guess. Money's tight since you're not real family anymore, Mom gasped. I said, funny you mention money. Check your bank app. The allowance I've been sending since your layoff just stopped. The room went silent before I even understood what my brother had said. Ryan sat beside the Christmas tree, holding the leather wallet I had given him between two fingers as if it smelled bad. It was a good wallet, full-grain leather, handmade, dark brown, with his initials stamped inside. It had cost me $120, but Ryan had been expecting the $900 watch he had sent me a link to 3 weeks earlier. He turned the wallet over, smirked, and announced loudly enough for every person at the table to hear, "Wow, cheap guess money's tight since you're not real family anymore," my mother gasped. My stepfather lowered his wine glass. Ryan's wife, Vanessa, stared at the floor. For several seconds, all I could hear was the soft Christmas music playing from the speaker above the fireplace. Some old song about peace and goodwill filled the room, while my 32-year-old brother publicly reminded me that I had a different biological father. Then Ryan laughed. "Come on, Derek, don't look so serious. It was a joke." I looked at him across the pile of torn wrapping paper. Ryan was wearing a designer sweater I had paid for indirectly through the monthly allowance I had been sending him since his layoff. His children were playing with a game console I had bought them. Behind him stood the 65-inch television I had helped my mother replace after Ryan convinced her that her old one was embarrassingly small. Even the food on the table had been partly paid for by me. Mom had called 2 weeks earlier saying Christmas expenses were overwhelming her. I had transferred $800 without asking questions. That was what I always did. I helped. I covered shortages. I solved emergencies. And somehow, after all those years, I was still the person Ryan could dismiss as not being real family. I placed my coffee cup on the table. "Funny you mention money," I said. "Check your bank app." Ryan's smile remained in place, but his eyes narrowed. "What? The allowance I've been sending since your layoff just stopped." Nobody moved. Ryan stared at me as though I had suddenly started speaking another language. Then he pulled out his phone. I watched his thumb move across the screen. I knew exactly what he would see. 10 minutes before entering my mother's house, I had opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer scheduled for the first of every month. $3,000. That was what I had been sending Ryan every month for the past 11 months. $33,000 in total. At first, it was supposed to last only until he found another job. Then it became something he expected. When Ryan finally looked up, his face had changed. "You canceled it?" "Yes." "Because of a joke?" "No," I said, because the joke finally made me understand the arrangement. Mom rose from her chair. "Derek, please, it's Christmas." "I know. The children are here." "I know that too." Ryan stood, still holding his phone. "You can't just stop it without warning." I almost laughed. The man who had just announced that I was not real family was offended that I had failed to provide advance notice before withdrawing his allowance. I just did. His face reddened. "What am I supposed to do about the mortgage?" "Pay it." "With what?" "The job would be traditional." Vanessa covered her mouth, but not quickly enough to hide the small sound that escaped. It might have been a cough. It might have been a laugh. Ryan turned toward her. "You think this is funny?" "No," she said immediately. I stood and reached for my coat. Mom stepped around the table and caught my arm. "Derek, don't leave like this." "How should I leave?" "We can sit down and discuss it calmly." "Mom, we have discussed it calmly for 11 months. Every month Ryan says he needs more time. Every month you tell me he's under pressure. Every month I send money." Ryan threw the wallet onto the couch. "And you love holding it over me." I looked at him. "I have never mentioned the money in front of anyone." "You just did, after you called me cheap in front of everyone while living on my income." My stepfather Frank finally spoke. "That's enough from both of you." His voice still carried the authority that had frightened me when I was a child, but I was 36 now. I inspected corporate tax records for the state revenue department. I spent my days sitting across from business owners, attorneys, and accountants who tried to intimidate me into overlooking numbers that did not add up. Frank's disappointed father voice no longer worked the way it once had. "No," I said. "It's enough from me." I put on my coat. Mom followed me into the hallway. "Your brother is going through a difficult period. He's been going through a difficult period since he was 14. He lost his job 11 months ago. The market is terrible. He has rejected 4 offers. Mom blinked. Ryan had never told her that. I knew because 2 of those offers had come through people I contacted. One was an operations position paying $78,000 a year. Ryan turned it down because the title did not include the word director. Another company offered him a sales management job. He declined after learning that he would have to work in the office 3 days a week. Mom lowered her voice. He told us the salaries were insulting. They were higher than what most people make. He has a family to support. So do thousands of other unemployed people. They take work they don't love because their children need food. Her fingers tightened around my sleeve. Please don't punish the children because you're angry at Ryan. There it was. The argument that had kept me trapped for nearly a year. The children. My niece Lily was 8. My nephew Noah was 6. I loved them. Ryan knew it, and so did my mother. Every time I questioned the allowance, someone mentioned school lunches, winter coats, medical appointments, or the possibility that the children might lose their home. But I had recently learned that Ryan's mortgage was not $3,000. It was $1,800. The rest of my allowance was paying for restaurant dinners, golf fees, new clothes, and the monthly lease on a luxury SUV he claimed he needed for interviews. I removed Mom's hand gently. The children can always call me if they need something essential, but I'm done financing their father. When I opened the front door, Ryan shouted from the living room, "If you walk out now, don't bother coming back." I looked over my shoulder. He stood beneath a framed family photograph taken 5 years earlier. Frank, Mom, Ryan, Vanessa, and the children were arranged in the center. I stood at the edge, almost cropped out. "You're the one who said I wasn't real family," I replied. "I'm simply adjusting my financial commitments accordingly." Then I left. I was 7 years old when my biological father disappeared. He did not die. He did not suffer some tragic accident. He packed 2 suitcases, told my mother he needed time to think, and never returned. For years, he sent birthday cards with no return address. Then even those stopped. Mom married Frank when I was 9. Frank already had a son from his previous marriage, Ryan, who was 5 at the time. At first, I was desperate for the 4 of us to become a real family. I called Frank Dad before he ever asked me to. I taught Ryan how to ride a bicycle, stood up for him at school, and let him sleep in my room whenever he had nightmares. But there was always an invisible line through our house. Frank took Ryan fishing alone because it was father-son time. When Ryan broke a window, we were both punished because I should have been watching him. When I earned a scholarship to college, Frank congratulated me with a handshake. When Ryan made the middle school basketball team, Frank threw a barbecue for 20 people. Mom saw the imbalance, but she explained it away. Frank is trying to make up for the divorce. Ryan needs more reassurance. You're older, Derek. You understand. That sentence shaped my entire childhood. You're older. You're stronger. You understand. By 17, I had become the person who was expected to absorb every disappointment without making anyone else uncomfortable. I worked through college, studied accounting, and eventually joined the state tax authority as an inspector. It was not glamorous, but I was good at it. I liked facts. Facts did not cry when confronted. Facts did not accuse you of being selfish. Facts did not change depending on which family member was speaking. A number either belonged on a return or it did not. A deduction was supported or it was not. Money had a trail, even when people lied about where it went. My career advanced steadily. By 30, I had purchased a small townhouse. By 34, I had paid off my student loans and built a respectable savings account. Ryan took a different path. He attended 3 colleges but graduated from none. He moved between jobs in sales, marketing, recruiting, business development, and something he called strategic brand partnerships. Every position ended the same way. The boss was threatened by him. The company had no vision. The coworkers were jealous. The market shifted. The role was beneath his potential. Whenever Ryan lost a job, Frank called it a setback. Whenever I received a promotion, Frank called it stability. At family gatherings, Ryan was charismatic and loud. He told stories about important meetings and wealthy clients. I was the quiet tax inspector who asked people for receipts. Ryan once introduced me to a friend by saying, "Derek works for the government. Basically, he ruins people's lives over paperwork." Everyone laughed. Later that evening, he asked me to lend him $5,000 for a business opportunity. I gave him 3. That was our relationship in miniature. He insulted what I did, then benefited from it. The layoff happened in January. Ryan called me at 7 in the morning, sounding breathless. They eliminated my entire division. I later learned that the company had eliminated 3 positions, not the entire division, and that Ryan had been placed on a performance improvement plan 2 months earlier. But that morning, I believed him. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "He'll find something. I just need a little bridge." The bridge began as $1,500 for 1 month. Then Mom called. "Ryan doesn't want to worry Vanessa. Could you help a little more?" I increased it to $3,000. I told myself it was temporary. Ryan had 2 children. He had a mortgage. He was my brother, whether or not we shared blood. For the first 3 months, he sent grateful messages. "You're saving us. I'll pay you back. I'll never forget this." By month 5, the gratitude disappeared. By month 7, the money became an expectation. Once, I transferred the payment a day late because of a banking holiday. Ryan texted me before breakfast. "Did you forget?" Not hello, not how are you. Did you forget? I nearly canceled it then, but that same afternoon, Mom called to tell me Lily needed braces. I kept paying. In September, I began noticing inconsistencies. Ryan complained that they could not afford groceries, but Vanessa posted photographs from a beachfront hotel. He said their utility bill was overdue, but he arrived at a barbecue wearing a new watch. He told me the SUV was necessary because their old car had become unsafe. When I offered to have the old car inspected, he suddenly remembered they had already traded it in. At work, inconsistencies were where investigations began. In my personal life, I had been trained to ignore them. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, Vanessa called me privately. Her voice shook. "Derek, I need to ask you something, and I need you not to tell Ryan." I put down the audit report I had been reading. "What happened? Are you sending him $3,000 every month?" "Yes." She was silent for so long that I checked whether the call had disconnected. "Vanessa, they told me it was $1,200. The room seemed to tilt. "What?" "They said you were helping with part of the mortgage, $1,200 a month. He said the rest came from consulting work." "What consulting work? There isn't any, is there?" "No." She began to cry quietly. Over the next 20 minutes, the rest emerged. Ryan controlled their joint account. He gave Vanessa a household budget and told her they were barely surviving. Meanwhile, he had opened a separate account in his name. He spent money on golf, sports betting, expensive meals, and weekend trips he described as networking. The beachfront hotel had not been a family vacation. Ryan had gone with 2 friends. He told Vanessa it was paid for by a potential employer. She had believed him, just as I had. "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because yesterday Noah's school payment failed. Ryan said you forgot to send the money." I felt something inside me go cold. Not hot, not angry, cold. The same feeling I got at work when I discovered that a taxpayer had created 3 shell companies to hide income while claiming hardship. The moment the story stopped being emotional and became numerical. I asked Vanessa to send me copies of the account statement she could access. She hesitated, but eventually did. I did not use any government database. I did not access confidential records. I reviewed only what she voluntarily provided and my own transfer history. The pattern was clear. Ryan had received $33,000 from me. Less than half went toward household expenses. He transferred thousands into an investment app, lost money on short-term trades, withdrew cash at a casino, and spent nearly $4,000 at restaurants and bars. Then I found something even worse. Every transfer I sent was marked family support. Ryan had been telling Vanessa it was consulting income and had started discussing filing their taxes jointly with business deductions attached to it. As a tax inspector, I knew exactly how dangerous that could become. I also knew I could not act as his advisor while employed by the department, especially if his return ever came under review. So I did the only ethical thing. I told Vanessa to speak to an independent tax professional. Then I asked her what she planned to do. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't even know who I'm married to." I understood that feeling. I had spent most of my life wondering which version of my family was real, the one that said they loved me or the one that valued me according to what I could provide. The Christmas wallet had been my final test. I did not consciously think of it that way when I purchased it, but some part of me wanted to see what would happen if Ryan received a thoughtful present instead of an extravagant one. He gave me my answer in front of everyone. Not real family, cheap, money must be tight. So I adjusted the numbers. Ryan called me 17 times on Christmas night. I did not answer. Mom called 6 times. Frank called once and left a message. "You made your point. Now stop being dramatic and fix this." Fix this. As though I had broken something by refusing to keep it hidden. The next morning, Ryan arrived at my townhouse. I watched him through the door camera. He wore the same designer sweater from Christmas, but now his hair was uncombed and his face looked swollen from lack of sleep. He knocked for almost 5 minutes before I opened the door. "You need to turn the payment back on," he said. No greeting, no apology. I leaned against the door frame. "No." His jaw tightened. "I have automatic payments scheduled. Cancel them. The mortgage comes out next week. You have money in your private account." His expression froze. That was the moment he realized I knew. What private account? "The one ending in 4409. His mouth opened, then closed. I continued. "The account where you transferred $13,700 over the past 11 months. The account connected to the investment platform, the one you used at the casino in October. You went through my financial records? Vanessa showed me statements from accounts connected to your household. That is private. So was the fact that I was supporting you. You made it public when you mocked me." He stepped closer. "You had no right to involve my wife. She involved me after you blamed me for his failed school payment. That was between us. No, you made me part of your marriage when you lied about my money." He ran both hands through his hair. For the first time, Ryan looked less like the charming favorite son and more like a frightened man who had run out of exits. "I was going to replace it. With what? I have opportunities. Name one." He looked away. I had spent years watching people do that across interview tables. The eyes moved first, then the chin. Then came indignation, because anger was easier than evidence. "You always do this," he said. "Do what?" "Tax superior because you have a government job and a house and savings." "I have those things because I work. And you think I don't? You have not worked in 11 months. I'm building connections. Golf is not employment. You don't understand my industry. I understand income." He laughed bitterly. "There he is, the tax robot." I nodded. "Yes, the tax robot who sent you $33,000. That money meant nothing to you." I stared at him. It was the most honest thing he had ever said. Not that the money meant nothing objectively, that it meant nothing to him because it came from me. He saw my salary, my quiet home, my lack of children, and assumed everything I earned was surplus. He never thought about the years I worked weekends, the vacations I postponed, or the retirement account I contributed to carefully each month. In Ryan's mind, my money did not represent hours of my life. It represented a resource he deserved. "You should leave," I said. His face hardened. "Mom was right about you." "What did she say?" "That you have always been jealous because Dad loved me like a real son." The sentence landed exactly where Ryan intended. For a moment, I was 9 years old again, standing at the window while Frank and Ryan drove away for a fishing trip. Then I remembered the bank statements, the insults, the Christmas laughter, and the frightened voice of Ryan's wife asking where the money had gone. "Maybe she's right," I said calmly, "but jealousy isn't paying your mortgage next week." I closed the door. He pounded on it twice. Then he left. The family campaign began immediately. Aunt Susan texted that money should never come between brothers. My cousin said I was overreacting to dark humor. Mom sent photographs of Lily and Noah with messages about innocent children suffering for adult pride. Frank called me ungrateful. That one almost impressed me. I had covered part of their property taxes the previous year. I paid for Mom's dental surgery when their insurance refused a portion of the claim. I replaced their refrigerator. I spent weekends fixing financial problems no one else wanted to discuss. Yet I was ungrateful because I refused one additional payment. I did not argue. Instead, I created a spreadsheet. Old habits. I listed every transfer I had made to Ryan, Mom, and Frank over the previous 5 years. Loans, gifts, emergency payments, travel costs, medical expenses, repairs. The total came to $81,460. That did not include birthday gifts, dinners, or smaller cash payments. I emailed the spreadsheet to the 3 of them with a single sentence. "Before anyone calls me selfish again, please identify which part of this support was insufficient." The calls stopped for 2 days. On the 3rd day, Mom appeared at my office building. She waited in the public lobby until I came downstairs. She looked smaller than she had at Christmas, tired. Her coat was buttoned incorrectly. "Ryan says the bank may start foreclosure proceedings. He missed one payment?" "No, apparently he was already behind." I closed my eyes. Of course he was. "How far?" 3 months. "He told me my money covered the mortgage." "I know. Did you ask where it went?" "He says he made mistakes. He lied. He's ashamed. He called me cheap while stealing support from his own household." Mom flinched at the word stealing. "You make it sound criminal. I make it sound accurate." She looked around the lobby, embarrassed that someone might hear. "Please lower your voice." I had spent my childhood lowering my voice so the truth would not disturb anyone. I did not lower it. "What do you want from me?" She clasped her hands. "Just bring the mortgage current. After that, Frank and I will take over until Ryan finds work." "With what money?" She hesitated. Their savings were limited. Frank was approaching retirement. Mom worked part-time at a library. "You're asking me to pay it?" it, I said. Then you'll pretend you paid it. We would repay you. No, Derek, no. Tears filled her eyes. I don't understand how you can be this cold. I looked at my mother and felt something painful but clarifying. She genuinely believed I was cold. Not because I had abandoned anyone, because she had become so accustomed to my sacrifices that stopping looked like cruelty. Mom, I have given this family more than $80,000 in 5 years. Family isn't about keeping score. People only say that when the score benefits them. She wiped her cheek. So that's it? You're going to let your brother lose his home? I'm not doing anything to his home. Ryan made financial decisions. Ryan hid money. Ryan rejected jobs. Ryan missed payments. Those are his actions. But you can prevent the consequences. I could. And then he would learn that consequences are just another bill Derek pays. She stared at me for a long moment. You've changed. No, I said. I've stopped volunteering for the same role. Then I returned upstairs. My hand shook for nearly an hour afterward. Boundaries sound powerful when people describe them later. In the moment, they feel like grief. I was not celebrating. I was mourning the family I had spent decades trying to earn. 3 weeks later, Vanessa filed for separation. She did not tell me in advance. Ryan did. He called from an unfamiliar number because I had blocked his. You destroyed my marriage. I nearly hung up, but his voice sounded different. Empty rather than angry. I did not tell your wife to leave. You showed her the numbers. She showed me the numbers. You turned her against me. You lied to her. I was under pressure. So was she. I was trying to protect her. By telling her you were earning consulting income, I had plans. You had stories. He exhaled sharply. Do you enjoy this? No. You sound like you do. I sound calm. You've always confused calmness with a lack of feelings. There was a pause. Then he said, Mom and Dad are letting me stay with them. I assume they would. The house is going on the market. I'm sorry for Lily and Noah. You don't care about us. I care enough to stop making it possible for you to avoid reality. He cursed at me and ended the call. For several months, I heard updates through Mom. Ryan slept in his old bedroom. Frank paid for an attorney. Vanessa moved with the children into a rented apartment near her sister. The SUV was repossessed. The private account emptied quickly. Ryan accepted a job selling commercial insurance. It paid less than the positions he had rejected, but it was work. At first, Mom described this as evidence that I had been too harsh. See, he was capable of finding something. He just needed support. No, I said. He needed the absence of support. She did not like that answer. By spring, Frank's attitude began to change. Ryan was living in their house but contributing almost nothing. He complained about the commute, the food, the lack of privacy, and the noise of Frank's television. One evening, Frank called me. He doesn't help with anything. I said nothing. He leaves dishes everywhere. I waited. And he keeps borrowing my car. That sounds difficult, Frank sighed. I suppose you're enjoying being right. This not. You warned us. Yes. Another silence. Then in a voice I had never heard from him before, Frank said, I think we made excuses for him. It was not an apology, but it was the first crack in the wall. You did, I said. We thought you could handle more. I could. That didn't mean I should have had to. I know. Those 2 words affected me more than I expected. I sat at my kitchen table after the call ended, staring at nothing. For years, I had imagined Frank finally acknowledging what happened in our family. In those fantasies, I delivered a perfect speech. He apologized. Mom apologized. Everyone understood. Reality was quieter. 2 words from an aging man who sounded tired. I know. It did not repair my childhood, but it gave me permission to stop debating whether I had imagined it. In May, Vanessa asked to meet me for coffee. She looked healthier than she had at Christmas, still tired, but steadier. The kids are doing okay, she said. Lily asks why everyone is angry. What do you tell her? That adults sometimes hide problems until they become too big? That's fair. She stirred her coffee. I wanted to thank you. You don't need to. Yes, I do. I was furious with you at first. With me? When the allowance stopped, everything collapsed. I thought you could have handled it more gently. I probably could have. But then I realized there was no gentle version. Ryan would have found another lie. I nodded. She reached into her bag and placed an envelope on the table. Inside was a check for $600. What is this? The first repayment. I slid it back. No. Derek. The money was sent to Ryan. You used what you received for the children in the house. I'm not taking it from you. But you lost so much. I lost the money before Christmas. I just didn't admit it until then. Her eyes became wet. Ryan says you destroyed his life. Ryan believes consequences are things other people do to him. She gave a sad smile. That sounds like something a tax inspector would say. Occupational hazard. Before leaving, she told me that Ryan had begun seeing the children regularly and was paying court-ordered support from his new job. He complains constantly, she said, but he pays. It was not redemption, it was responsibility. Sometimes responsibility arrives only after every escape route closes. The following Christmas, I did not go to Mom and Frank's house. Not because I was banned. Mom invited me 3 times. I simply wanted something different. I spent Christmas Eve volunteering at a community meal organized by one of my coworkers. On Christmas morning, I made breakfast in my townhouse and video called Lily and Noah while they opened the gifts I had sent. Educational kits, books, and a pair of roller skates. No cash, no luxury electronics, no payment routed through Ryan. Later that afternoon, someone knocked on my door. It was Frank. He held a small, wrapped box. "Your mother wanted to come," he said, "but I thought I should speak to you alone." I invited him inside. We sat at my kitchen table, the same place where I had reviewed Ryan's bank statements a year earlier. Frank looked older. His hair had gone almost completely gray. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I did not rescue him from the silence." He continued. "I treated you like the dependable one. I told myself that meant I respected you, but really, it meant I demanded more from you and gave you less." My throat tightened. "And when Ryan failed," he said, "I protected him. When you succeeded, I acted as if success was simply what you owed us." I looked down at my hands. "You told him he was your real son." Frank's face changed. "I said things over the years that I am ashamed of. You let him say them too." "Yes." I waited. "I should have adopted you," he said. "Not because a document makes someone family, but because you wanted that security, and I knew it. I kept telling myself it didn't matter. It mattered to you." I remembered being 12 years old and secretly practicing Frank's last name with my first, imagining how it would look on school forms. I had forgotten that, or tried to. "I don't know whether I can forgive all of it," I said. "I understand, but I appreciate you saying it." He nodded and pushed the small package toward me. Inside was an old photograph in a new wooden frame. It showed me at 10 years old, sitting on the front steps with 5-year-old Ryan asleep against my shoulder. My arm was wrapped around him protectively. On the back, Frank had written, "You were his brother long before any of us deserved you." I stared at the sentence until the words blurred. Frank did not ask me for money. He did not ask me to forgive Ryan. He did not tell me to come home. For once, he simply sat with the discomfort he had helped create. That mattered. Ryan and I did not speak again until March. He called from his own number. "I got promoted," he said. His voice was cautious. "Congratulations. The regional team leader." "That's good." "Yeah." The silence stretched. Then he cleared his throat. "I've been going to therapy." I said nothing. "Vanessa said I should tell you." "You should only tell me if you want me to know." "I do." Another pause. "I was angry at you because it was easier than admitting I had become someone I hated." I leaned back in my chair. "That Christmas comment wasn't just a joke," he said. "I knew it would hurt you." "Yes." "I wanted to embarrass you because the wallet made me feel embarrassed." "How?" "I thought everyone would notice you hadn't bought me the watch. I thought they would realize I wasn't doing well." "So you made me the problem first?" "Yes." It was the most self-aware thing I had ever heard him say. "I'm sorry," he continued. "For that, for the money, for using the kids to pressure you, for all of it." "Are you asking me for forgiveness?" "No. I don't think I've earned that yet." For the first time, he sounded like a man rather than a boy performing adulthood. "I don't want your money," he said. "I just wanted you to know I understand why you stopped." I looked out my office window at the city below. A year earlier, those words would have felt impossible. "Thank you for saying that." "I still have the wallet." I smiled despite myself. "Do you?" "Yeah. It's actually a good wallet. It cost $120. He laughed quietly. "I know. Vanessa found the receipt after I threw the box away. That made me feel even worse." "It was supposed to." "Fair enough." We did not become close immediately. Real change rarely happens in one conversation. We began with occasional messages, then coffee, then a lunch where we discussed work without insulting each other. Ryan continued paying support. He moved into a small apartment. He sold most of his expensive clothes online and bought a used sedan. He never repaid the $33,000. I never expected him to. What he repaid slowly was honesty. As for me, I redirected the canceled allowance into my retirement account and a travel fund. That summer, I took my first real vacation in 6 years. I stood alone on a quiet beach in Portugal, watching the Atlantic turn gold beneath the setting sun. For once, nobody needed me to transfer money. Nobody had an emergency. Nobody measured my love through the amount I was willing to sacrifice. My phone remained silent in my pocket, and the silence felt peaceful rather than lonely. For most of my life, I believed being useful was the price of belonging. I thought that if I paid enough bills, solved enough problems, and swallowed enough insults, my family would eventually recognize me as real. But real family does not require one person to purchase his place at the table. Real love does not disappear when the automatic transfer stops. That Christmas, Ryan thought he was exposing me as cheap. Instead, he exposed the entire arrangement. Canceling the allowance did not destroy my family. It ended the system that had kept all of us trapped. Ryan as the helpless favorite, my parents as his rescuers, and me as the dependable outsider whose value came from his bank account. The consequences were painful, but pain and harm are not always the same thing. Sometimes pain is simply what honesty feels like after years of pretending. I'm still a tax inspector. I still spend my days following numbers and asking uncomfortable questions. But the most important audit I ever conducted was not at work. It was the one I performed on my own life. I examined what I gave, what I received, and what I had been told I owed. The numbers did not balance. So I closed the account, and for the first time, I stopped trying to prove I was real family. I started building a life in which I already knew I was enough.